Hey guys, welcome back to Thorough Capping. It's Dave. It's been a little bit of time before it's been a while since I put a video out, but this time of year I call this my fall cleaning time of the year. I really not much of a player as much as I am in the summer. This time of year I like to like experiment with some things, take a look at some factors that have been effective, some factors that have been somewhat ineffective, some new ways to combine factors to figure out, if I can get a little more of an edge. Not so much changing any methodology. Okay, I stick with my same factors, but the reason why we have so many grids in our thorough capping library in the tutorial is because there's a lot of different ways you could use these factors and combine them together. Sometimes leaving certain things out, adding pieces in, and so forth. And this is the time of year where I like to take a look at all those things. And I'm happy to unveil a new model, okay, or I'll call it a new grid. And one of my goals coming up with this new grid was to make sure that I put together something that's a little more user-friendly for the users who are just learning the thorough capping methods and finding out that it's taken a lot of time to do all the calculations, and before you know it, you're 45 minutes in and you haven't even finished one race yet. I know that gets taxing, especially when you're not going to hit every race you play. And then you go and you say, okay, I just spent an hour and 10 minutes on a race and I lost. Now, do you have that mental energy to be able to pick it right back up and do the second race? And so on. So my goal here was to make this as user-friendly as possible, still using factors that we've originally had in the thorough capping program itself, but at the same time add some more numbers that we're able to just pull right off of the PPs, and this is focused on the BrizNet PPs. I wanted to find a way that we could actually use the BrizNet data that they provide us a little bit more to, one, again, alleviate some time, and two, to put a little more trust in the data that the BrizNet PPs are giving us. So what I have here is it's titled the Recency model. So those of you that have the thorough capping tutorial, if you go in and you go to the grid download and you download the grids again, you will now have a new option titled Recency model. And this is exactly what it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through this today. And I'm not concerned about how much time this video takes. I'm not looking to do a brief, short video. Those that need to forward, you can forward if you want. If you're looking to cut to certain parts of it, I'm not going to go over any calculations in this. How-tos. The how-tos are all in the thorough capping tutorial. And if you notice here, I'm still using TC ratings on this grid. Okay, so the grids are still formulated to develop averages, but at the same time, we're leaving some of the factors out, or we're replacing them with a different method. The factors that we're going to use is indeed we're sticking with our target rating, so you still need to know how to figure out a target rating for the different distances of a race. So, and again, that's a portion of the tutorial that explains how to find target ratings in a race. We are really not labeling an ability rating on this grid, because what we're doing is we're going 3 deep. We're finding 3 target ratings, which really one of these 2 would most likely be the ability rating as well. If we use the first one as the last race, one of these 2 could potentially be the ability rating. But the thing is, what we're doing here is we're working top to bottom. I'm not looking to dive way down deep into the past performances to find a pace line that was 6-7 months ago. I want to take a look at the last 3 that were equivalent to this distance, or where I could pull a rating that was equivalent to somewhere, a call point or something in that race that was equivalent to this distance, even if I have to make adjustments to the ratings. This is more of a reflection of recency, this model, opposed to some of the other models. And if I have time at the end of this video, I'm going to go through all the different grids now that we have in our TC package so that you can see. But today's focus is mainly going to be on this new model. So let's take a look at it real quick. We have the target rating. We have the target Briz. I held on to that, again, because that's a good indication of recency as well. We have an early speed. We have a late speed. And then we have the Briz speed rating. And what we're doing here is I'm going to go to a PP. We're gonna do a race right now. We're going to do Thistledown today. Today is September 27th. We're going to do Thistledown race 6. And before I even go there, I do want to show you, I've done this a few times. I tested this on a few back races the other night at Del Mar, and I got very good results. And then I tested it today on 3 races at Thistledown. Now, I have this in a vertical setup, but I decided to go with the main grid in a horizontal setup because I just feel like it's a better use of space. But if you look here, today was Thistledown race number 2, and after the race was done, the 3 was a scratch. After we did the 7 horses, or the 6 horses, I should say, with the scratch, the numbers I had circled were my contenders, not in any particular order. The 6 stood out for me. The 2 stood out for me. The 1 stood out for me, and then I had to throw the 7 in. Even though he only showed up twice, but he showed up top in average target and top in average early speed. And this race actually came out 6-2-1-5. Okay, so the 6-2 and the 1 did complete the trifecta. It was a pretty chalky result, but at the same time, it did point me in the right direction. Now, Thistledown 3, I did the same thing. I did all 7 horses. There were no scratches in that race. And my grid pointed me to the 6, 4, the 3, and the 2. And again, not in any particular order. I mean, obviously, by looking at the color and where these horses show up, I could rank these. But these are just the top 4. And it actually, the 6 finished out of the money, but it came in 4-3-2-5. So we did nail the try, and the exacta, and the 3 horse was 24-1. And the 3 horse got the lead. There's the early speed, 90.67. And really, the 4 horse caught the 3 with about 50 yards left in the stretch. So it was almost a gate-to-wire winner with this 24-1 shot on the 3. And then finally, the 3rd race, I narrowed it down to just 3, simply because of the discrepancies here with the 4th choice. And the 7 horse actually won the race. It came in 7-1-4, or 7-4-1, I think was the finish. But at the same time, it's led me to believe that this is pointing me in the right direction. Now, I realize it's a small sample set, but when you see those of you that have been using these methods and have been finding that it's really, really grinding, doing all the calculations, especially when your mental math isn't, as sharp as it can or will be, you're going to find out this is a lot more user-friendly. So let's go back to the grids. Let's take a look at the race. And first thing I do here, in my initial sweep, now, I haven't added any qualitative factors to this yet. All I'm looking at are those main factors, that the quantitative factors that I showed you already in the in that one particular grid that I gave you. Is that the one? Nope. Where's it at? Right here? There it is. These are the only factors I'm looking at right now. I've not looked at any class drops or identified any class drops or moves. I do not have a qualitative section. Now, the qualitative piece could be done in a lot of different ways. I mean, it would really add and take up a lot of space if I added a qualitative side to each horse as well. So I'm not saying it's, you leave it out, but at the same time, maybe you just make notes here, okay? This one is a class dropper. He's also coming off a turn move. The 2 horses, and not have this affect the TC rating at all. There's different ways you can do it, and those of you guys that are savvy on spreadsheets will probably figure out your own way. But right now, I'm just focusing on the quantitative factor. So let's do a split screen right now. And first of all, the first step I like to do is, let me make this PP a little bit bigger. I've been identifying what races I'm going to use. And all I've been doing is I've been looking at the distance today, taking in consideration the class as well, in case there was a really bad race and it was a higher class, such as right here. We have a non-graded stakes. I might pass that race, which I'm probably going to. And all I do is I identify the 3 races that I'm going to use. Now, this is not taking into consideration the fact that the next 2 races I'm going to use are coming out from 2022, okay? And most software programs, those who subscribe, a lot of the software programs aren't going to do that either. Okay, they're not going to look and say, okay, this race was back a year ago, so we're not going to include it. If that program is developing some sort of recency rating, whether it be speed, whether it be pace, whatever, it's going to go off of whatever it has here. It's not going to look at the date. Now, I can't speak for all programs, but at the same time, the ones that I'm familiar with, that I played around with in the past, I've seen pace lines used on those programs that were a year plus old. So at the same time, you're going to run into that at times with this as well, just like you were using any other type of method. There's nothing we could do about the fact that this horse is only run one time in 23. Simple as that. So you have an option to toss the horse. If there's too many that have this scenario in the race, you pass on the race. Whatever, there's always another race you can play. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify the 3 races that I'll use on here. Then I'll move down. This is a 6 furlong, but I will use the 5.5. I'll use this race, and I'll use this race. So I'll use the last 3. Ideally, I'm looking to use the last 3 if I can. Again, because this is a recency model. But if there is an indication of a trouble trip, or maybe just such a high jumping class, such as right here, I'll give the horse the benefit of the doubt with that result, and I will go back and I will do these 3 races. So again, all I'm doing is I'm identifying what races I'm going to use. Now, this is a mile race. Today is a 7 or 6 furlong. So I'm going to toss out these last 2 calls. I'm not going to use them. And then I'll make my adjustment to my target rating off of that, from a 2 turn to a 1, which I'll show you when I get there. 68. And again, a graded stakes. Even though this is a class dropper already, I'm going to give this horse the benefit of the doubt that, you know, it's ran a pretty bad race. Even when I look at the 6 furlong mark here, but when I go back one, I'm also looking at a bad race here. So I don't want to spoil the recency here by going back too far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the best of these 2 and use that 61. Now there's only 6 horses in this race, so we'll be done with this pretty soon, and we'll be ready to move on to our factors. And again, when you see how quick you're able to do one horse because of the lack of calculations that are involved in this, I think some of you may take a liking to it. I'll use this one, use these 3, and then finally we have 5.5, 6 furlongs, trouble trip, no, past tiring rivals, no threat, so I got to use it. No threat, 16,000, and then out of these 2 here, again, because this is a 6 furlong race and not a 5.5, I'm just going to give the horse the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to use this 6 furlong race at today's distance rather than the 5.5. And again, this is what separates one individual from another. No matter what type of handicapping you're doing, when you're selecting pace lines, you're going to have to use your judgment. Okay, there's nothing set in stone that says you have to use this race, you have to use that race. If your gut tells you to go with one over the other, then go with that one over the other. Okay, so now that we have the races identified, that's all I'm doing on my qualitative scan right now at this point. With the development of this new model, right now all I'm looking at is those 3 pace lines, and now I'm going to do a split screen, and I'm going to show you what's going on here. Now, first of all, the reason I have this in gray, let me expand on that a little bit, is I just wanted to show you that this here is one whole car, or one whole race. Okay, it holds up to 12 horses. Each of these sets of cells are runners. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then we have our second race here. I provide you with enough grids to probably last, I don't know, maybe there's probably over 100 cards, race cards here. When you scroll down, it's like ongoing forever. So when you get to a point, if you're using this model, when you get to a point and you get to the bottom, all you want to do is you want to copy a section and click this add 1,000 more cells, paste it, and just repaste it over and over again to give yourself more grids to use. But right now, I think you guys got a good start up. Now, I don't like looking at this gray, so I'm going to take that out of there. Turn it back to white, and I'm just going to put, this is TDN 6. This is Thistledown 6 we're looking at right now. Expand that a little bit. Put it in bold. And let's go to work. So when I look at number 1, all I'm doing is I'm pulling my target rating. Okay, and this is, again, you still have some calculations to do, but hopefully those of you that are following right now, if you are regulars and have been using these methods, you're going to find out that it's going to save you a lot of work, and you probably have some sort of familiarity already with the target and the target Briz ratings. So it's not going to be anything new to you. If you are a new user who just recently purchased thorough capping or plan on doing so, you're going to find out that your time is going to be cut down because you're not going to be doing calculations for 5 different factors. You're only going to be doing the calculations for 2 of them. And one of them is only simply just addition, and you're going to see. So let's go to the target rating in this first race. We have a 107, so off of a 5.5 furlong, we use a 102 as a standard. That'd be 25. And the finish, let me make this a little bit smaller so I can see it a little better. That'd be a 25, 34. That would be a 66 target. And for our target Briz, we're just adding the 66 to the 51, which is going to give you a 117. Now, the early speed, I'm using the E2. Simple as that. Okay, I'm using E2 for early speed, and I'm using the LP, Briz LP, for late speed. So that's where your time is going to be cut down. Big time. Because all you're doing is you're taking a look at these 2 numbers, and you're putting them down respectively. 71, 70. And then for the Briz speed rating, I'm just taking the speed rating in a race and making it a 51. Okay, so what we do is we have an average of all those factors are averaged out, and that would come out to a 75 average, because right now the TC rating is 75, and I've only used... Now, some of you may decide you want to expand on this and create a... And I may want to do this too down the road. Create an average for every race. That way you can identify which particular horse had the best pace line overall out of all the races that you looked at. But let's take a look at this second race here. We have a 112 and 4, 6 furlongs. That'd be a 24. He won the race, so the 24 from 100 is a 76. Plus the 70 is a 146. The early speed would be a 76. And then an 84. Again, 76, 84. And the Briz rating for that race was a 70. So there we have a 90.4 in that race, bringing the overall TC rating up to a 82.7. So I'm going to leave that out. But I'm just saying, if you want to average them out to get a better idea of the individual averages for each race, you could take that TC out of there, and you can create an average for all 3 of the races that you're looking at. But I'm going to leave it as is right now. And then finally, I'm going to reach down here. I'm going to go 25, 29, 39. This was a 61. 61 plus 49 is a 110. The early speed in that race was a 70. The late pace was a 64 and a 49 for the Briz number. So the overall TC rating in that horse is a 78.3. And that's it. You're done for that particular horse. And this has taken me a little bit longer than it would be if I was doing it on my own, because I'm talking to you, I'm explaining it to you. But those of you who have mastered or become proficient at figuring out target ratings, you'll be able to breeze through this. Okay, you're going to find out the biggest part of this is actually evaluating when you're done. And that's the most fun part, because you're done the handicap, and now you're looking for your grid to point you in the right direction. So let's go down here, and let's go to, and I'll do a few of these, and then when I'm done, I'll pause. I'll do 2 more, and then I'll pause, and then we'll just take a look at the entire grid itself. And then hopefully we'll have time. You guys can, if you watch this ahead of time, you can check the race and see what the result was. So this 2 horse, we have a 5.5, which is a 107, off of a 102. That's 25. That's 26. That's a 74. 139 for a target Briz. Early speed was a 79, 78, 65. Boom. See how quick that race was done? 15, 19, 73. 135, 74, 76, Briz rating, 62. And then finally, 5.5, that'd be a 24, 74, 134, 74, 77, 60. Boom, done race, done horse number 2. All done. And I'll do one more. And I'll do this one a little bit slower, because this is the last sample horse I'm going to do before I pause and come back, when this will all be done when I come back. So we have a 107. We use a 102 as a standard to figure out a target rating on a 5 furlong race, 5.5. Whereas the 108 is the standard at 6 furlongs. So a 107 is actually 5 ticks off. So that'd be a 25. And then we add 2 more here for the mile, or 1 3/4. So the 25 plus 27, that would be a 73. 73. Added to the 64 is a 137. The early speed, again, we're using E2, 79. The late speed, we're using the late pace, 76. And we're using the British speed rating, 64. Two back, we have 25, 28. So that's another 8. It's 36. That's a 64. 64 plus 53 is a 117. Early speed is a 69. 70. Briz a 53. And then finally down here, 34. That's a 66. Plus 56 is 122. Early speed was a 78. 66. And 56. Alright, so far we have 3 done so far. If it was a 3-horse race right now, the 2 would be getting a nod with the TC rating at least, 84.93. Alright, I'm going to pause, and then I'll come back and I'll do the rest of them. Before I pause, I want to do the 4-horse for you, simply because we're looking at a mile race, and I just want to show, even though I've showed in other videos how to make this adjustment, I want to show you how to make that target adjustment from a 2-turn race to a 1. I'm still going to use a 108, so that would be as a standard. So that 114.2 would be 32 plus another 8 is 40. That'd be 60. I'm going to add 5. Okay, I'm going to add 5 and make that a 65 target to account for the fact that this is a 2-turn race that I was looking at, and today's a 1-turn race. So I would just add the 65 to the 54 and get a 119. My keyboard is not working for me here. And then I do the same with the 55, 66, 54. Alright, and then 2 races back is a 6 furlong, so no adjustments are needed. That's a 15, 16, 17. Plus 10 is a 27, that's a 73. Target buyer is be a 141 when you add it to the 68. Early speed is an 80, 79, and a 68. And then the next one is a mile race as well. So we have to do the adjustments. It's 30. 6 for a long call was right here. 41, 30, 41 is 59. Add the 5, that's going to give me a 64. 64 plus a 61 is a 125. 58, early speed, 75 late. And that Briz number was a 61. Alright, let me finish these up and then we'll come back. I got 2 more to do. Alright guys, we're all done. The 6 runners. So what we can do to save space here, we can toss these last 2 here and then even get rid of the 9 through 12 just to make room. That way we have less to look at. So now to evaluate, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my top TC rating horse, and that's the 2 horse. And I'll identify the next 2. Got the 80.67 and the 79.33. Okay, now I'll just go down the line here. Top Briz, average. And if the others are too close, then I might, especially with a 6 horse field, if we're talking tenths of points, we're going to probably leave it as identifying 2 and not 3 of them. But I'll identify there. So far, the 2 and the 3 are standing out for us. Now we go to late speed, 77, 74, 78.3. We have the 5 horse showing up, followed by the 2. And then I'm going to leave that. Nah, I'll give the 6 a nod. I mean, a 6 horse field, I don't want too many horses showing up. Early speed, 75.67, 75.33. For this one, I'm just going to go and identify the 2 and the 3. A target buyer, 124, 136, 132. We'll identify the 2 that were in the 30s, 136 and 132. And then finally our target average. The 2 horse and the 5 horse. Alright, so that paints a little picture for us. Right now, we're looking at the 2 horse, the 5 horse, and am I able to get a 3rd? Yeah, I would go with the 3 horse, probably as my 3rd showing up. And with a 6 horse field, I think I should just settle with 3 here. 2, 3, and a 5. Okay, they're the ones showing up the most. Now, if we take a look at the PPs, race 6, let's see where our value would be. We have a 9 to 2 on the 5, 5 to 2 on the 2, and the 4 to 1 on the 3. Now, the 4 is the 2 to 1 morning line favorite. He is coming off of the turn back from 1 mile to 6 furlongs. He is the heavy class horse, as I mentioned before, even though I'm not using class right now in the ratings themselves. But at the same time, it doesn't mean we can't look at this and say, okay, well, are there any qualitative features that stand out, such as key races, next out ones? So what I'm doing is I'm not getting rid of those factors. All I'm doing is taking a look at a different way to look at our factors, where we're cutting down our time on calculating and, you know, spending more time on evaluating, opposed to trying to get to the product here and then take another 10 minutes to figure out what the grids are telling us. So you guys are able to take those qualitative factors and tie them in any way you want. I mean, the 4 does show up here second in Briz average. If you were to identify, you'd probably have a class. You would not probably. You'd have a class drop next to that horse. Is he an early speed horse? We didn't look at that. No, he's not the he's probably not going to get the lead unless his class takes him there, but there isn't a lot of horses that are looking for the lead here, as you can see. So this 4 horse may inherit the lead. I mean, maybe the 3 horse off of this 3 horse has probably been closest to the lead early. And then these other horses, I mean, the 2 horse showed last time that he wanted to be close to the lead. But those are horses that we're going to go with here. I'm not playing the race, but I'm going to say the 2, 3, and 5, and we're going to try to say that the 4 potentially is a vulnerable favorite and maybe beat that 4 with some value. To wrap up this video, what I do want to show you now is how the grids, how many grids we have now. So again, when you download, if you already have the Thorough Capping Deluxe, and you go to the slide that says download grid here, you'll be able to see this recency model. And just remember, you have to go into now file, make a copy. That way you make a copy of your own. Or if you're not using Google Sheets like I use, you go to download, and you can download this in Microsoft Excel and create a sheet for you in Excel opposed to in Google Sheets. But we have the recency model. We have the original TC model where we tied in Brohammer pace, because I know there are a lot of people that are high on using the pace lines and figuring out early pace, sustained pace, average pace. We also have I have multiple copies of that in there for you. And this was the original grid. I also have the follow the figures grids for those of you who have follow the figures tutorial. And I mentioned this many times before. If you are a purchaser of the Thorough Capping, you'll notice there's a note right here. Email me at thoroughcapping@gmail.com if you're interested in a complimentary copy of Follow the Figures or the Matrix System. Okay, so there's 2 other tutorials that you can get complimentary if you download the Thorough Capping. We also have the Factor Bias Index that I started. I never continued with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out of there right now, because there are so many different models, blended models that we could actually use, that this was focused on one particular model. You guys can create your own if you want and keep track of what's working and what's not. We also have for the pace figures, we also have the calculations, or what's the word I'm looking for? The translation from 4.5 furlongs to how many feet you would use. That'd be 330 feet, 660 for 5 furlongs, and so forth. So they're your grids that you have access to. And if anybody has any issues downloading this recency model, or they can't find it in their on their grid, let me know. Shoot me an email, put a comment in the videos, and we'll see. If you have any questions about this particular model, throw them in the comments or email me at thoroughcapping@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But the best, as I mentioned before, the best way to get to me is to throw a question into the Discord if you're already in there. If you're not, there's a Discord invite link in the description below. Join the Discord, and because this is going to be the model that I'm going to be focusing on in the near future now. Even if I'm not playing, I'm just going to be experimenting, taking a look at the results, and eventually trying to work in some qualitative data into this model as well. All right, thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you next time.